What's up, everybody? John Delarose here, #1 best-selling and award-winning author, way better than N.K. Jemisin, who also has those credentials. But I don't get those credentials based on being a race baiter, and that's literally all N.K. Jemisin does. Whether it is online, whether it is giving speeches, whether it is in this comic book itself, all she does is race bait and whine about social justice. And that's why we're doing this review today. So I was in the comic book store and I asked my people, if you're in my Discord, whether I should pick this up and whether I should review this. And they told me yes. So I picked this up because of that. And oh my gosh, we are in for a doozy. I usually do reviews on a separate channel, and I review comic books I like. I review comic books just for the fun of it, pretty much. And so I'll put that link in the description below, along with my Amazon page. If you want to read something way better than this, way better science fiction than this woman could ever dream of writing, definitely go to my Amazon page and support the channel. Check it out there. All right. Whew. All right, so this is N.K. Jemisin. She was hired as a diversity hire by DC Comics to try to prove that they're stunning and brave. And of course, they give her this, like, Green Lantern book that's, I guess, out of continuity, in continuity. It doesn't really matter because nobody else is going to use this character. Who is, like, this black woman who ends up in this area called Far Sector. It's filled with generic sci-fi tropes on every level, and we'll get to that in just a second. It's got an introduction by Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance. I guess he knows N.K. Jemisin, and he goes off on how stunning and brave she is for 2 pages, because if he didn't, she'd call him a racist. And, these people live in fear of people like N.K. Jemisin. So you get into this, one thing I do want to note, and I'll note this the whole way through because I am a fair and honest reviewer here, the colors on this are fantastic. Just absolutely stunning colors all the way around. I think the artist, line artist, actually did the colors also. Yeah, it's Jamal Campbell. He's a very good colorist. He does makes these really sweeping, cool-looking palettes all the way around. His line art is not quite up to that snuff. As you can see, the Green Lantern lady here, with her, like, stunning and brave glasses and her stunning and brave hair and her stunning and brave everything, looks like an amorphous blob. And that's how SJWs perceive women, as amorphous blobs, because you don't want to sexualize them in any by making them look pretty at all. So everything has to look kind of ugly and kind of what's the word, androgynous gendered. For the most part. You get some nice landscapes up here. But we're into the first issue of this, and it's a 12-issue series. And a lot of authors turned comic people screw this up, because in books, you are supposed to really set the scene, really paint a picture with your words, really have a lot of dialogue. A lot of the plot moving forward happens in dialogue as characters discuss situations and make plans. In comic books, that really doesn't work out so well. So we start out, and she's meeting with this, like, council or something, and she spends this entire issue explaining the world of this, not explaining who the Green Lantern is, who we're supposed to care about. But we're given no reason to care about her. She just sits there and is sassy and snarky and quirky, because that's what all the strong women leads always are. They're sassy. So she always has internal dialogue that's like one sentence long, like this: "Wait, there's a moment," and it's always sassy. It's always snarky. Yeah. So it makes you just not like her out the gate. Because there's no reason to like her. And there's this one council dude who's, like, picking up on her pretty much in this, like, alien species. And you get a lot of just exposition. Nothing happens in this first issue. There's allegedly this murder. And what's interesting is they set up this whole murder as, like, the big problem for this. And gosh, I'm going to go way over time on this. But man, I'm gonna freaking dissect this because it deserves to be dissected. Somebody needs to tell this lady N.K. Jemisin that she cannot write. She is terrible on every single level, and so I am going to be the brave one to do that, because I don't give a fuck if she calls me a racist. Sorry for my French. I'm the only person in the industry probably willing to do that outside of Vox Day. So there you go. So there it is. There's the murder. Somebody was murdered. Nobody usually gets murdered here. And you see she has quirky, sassy dialogue every page. Oh, hell no. Yeah. It's the same strong female character the entire time, and that's the entire first issue. She just freaks out, and that's it. This is the only piece of action in the entire issue, her freaking out because somebody murdered, and that's it. So next, what do we go to? We get these like introduction pages where they tell us what happened in the last issue, and she's pretending to be Neo from the Matrix. So everything N.K. Jemisin also does is a reference to something from the 90s or early 2000s that like is so dated. It's like, did a boomer write this thinking this is going to appeal to the children? Yes, that's exactly what happened. So she gives chase. As I said, the colors are beautiful. Look at this like background scenery scape with all these cool colors. Like I really enjoy this guy's colors. She's still an amorphous blob. Looks like a bell. I mean, how does her butt look like that? Very bizarre. Very inconsistent all the way through. And you've got this very slow world building that's going on through the course of this. And you're just like, okay, this is kind of boring. And I mean, what are we, like 30 pages into this? Nothing's really happened. She gave up on her chase. Now she's with this other amorphous blob. And immediately we're starting to get into the virtue signal. Now the virtue signaling ramps up. So what happens is you get really actually none of it in the first issue. It's just a bunch of exposition and a bunch of dialogue explaining the world. It's very boring and very not good way to start a first issue of a comic. But now she gets into virtue signaling. And she does this through her internal dialogue, as you can see, with her snarky "so like." By the way, the first thing an editor tells you when you get into writing is you don't put words like "so" at the beginning of sentences, and you maybe can get away with it like once or twice a book, but once you start doing that in the dialogue, and N.K. Jemisin does "so like" several times over the course of this book, like way too many. Somebody should have edited this, but I get the feeling that they're like afraid to edit her, because if they edit her, she'll call them racist probably. And here we go. And so immediately we get into these amorphous, androgynous, gross-looking women. And here we go. I was convinced Zin was flirting with me. Turns out she was flirting. So we tried it. Didn't work out. We're just friends now. And so there it is. So immediately we get the black lesbian relationship with the like weird winged lesbian, who are both ugly. And character really doesn't do anything over the course of the whole book, and that's going to be actually the main theme. The main character doesn't do anything. Her sin friend doesn't do anything. This guy actually does anything. Dreadlock Man here, he starts to try to seduce her here, and she likes it here. It's very inconsistent how she treats him. There's no like internal dialogue really that goes after him and is like, I'm suspicious or whatever. She kind of gets into it, and he presents this plan of the council that's going on or whatever to deal with this problem. And there it is. And again, remember she already said, oh, hell, in the first issue. Well, she repeats her dialogue quite a bit with those like quirky isms. And that's it. That's the second issue. Nothing happened again. We're 2 issues in and nothing happened. But we do have shiny Dreadlock Man. So there's 3 species on here. One of them's like this like androidish species, and they have their own internet. And they're really into memes, it turns out. Like, they're into human memes. They're into a far sector of the galaxy of the internet, or of the galaxy, like, way far away, where they're, like, their completely own self-contained world nobody visits, nobody goes to from our era. But for some reason, they, like, watch Earth memes. Now, how do Earth memes get out there? I don't know. It's not really explained very well. It's not explained why they're into that. It doesn't make sense why they're into that. It draws you out of the books. You're in this, like, cool Jetsons sci-fi fantasy spot, and yet they say things like Leroy Jenkins in here. I'm dead serious. And it's like, it's so out of place. And again, like, who would put Leroy Jenkins into a book in 2021? It's so stupid. It's beyond me. But that's what we get here. So again, the colors, look at the colors. Colorscape's beautiful, very cool sci-fi. I like it. I like that they're not presenting a bleak sci-fi world. He does these little action poses like of her, which don't really fit any scenario. And she's kind of standing there for the rest of it. I don't know why they do these like pin-up poses in the middle of things. This is kind of a modern comic trope that artists do these days, but oh well. And again, she's snarky. Wrong. Yeah. So, again. Yeah. And so there's these people protesting for, like, rights. And she realizes, oh my gosh, I got to protect the protesters. And why? Because back on Earth, there's all these racist people who hate black people, and they're just like black people here. And oh my gosh, I got to remember that. And she remembers her past, where of course she was a cop, and her white cop friend was beating a poor black man, and he was saying, "Stop resisting. We are gonna have to order. Damn it." Yes, and she just stood there and watched, and she wasn't brave enough to do anything about the blatant racism back on Earth. But here it's gonna be different. She also swears like a sailor, so in her quirkiness. Oh, you emotionless motherfuckers. There you go. It's just so, everything's so cringy about this. It's just unbelievable. So the council is going to put down the protesters. She starts looking into the protest. We forget about the murders. Like, the murders really aren't important. That was set up, like, the first 2 issues were like, the murder is the most shocking thing ever. And like, it suddenly doesn't matter whatsoever. And all of this becomes about her past now, of which she was oppressed because she's black, and her mom was oppressed because she's black, and her mom couldn't get a job that was good because she's black, and it was ruining her life because she's black. You didn't get the promotion? Of course not. But you've been doing that job already without the pay. She was being a slave. Yes, because she's black. Oh, hell. Oh, hell. They all say, oh, hell. They're all snarky. They didn't give it to that incompetent ass, did they? Here we are. When he heard that I'd applied, he warned HR he'd sue for discrimination against white men if I got it. Heh. Every person in that office is a white guy, except me. There you go. And it just ends up like that. And of course, this leads her to becoming an officer, and she watches this terrible, horrible racism, but doesn't do anything about it. And she's really sad. And she gets approached by this, like, weird black lady who's an alien, I guess, which gives her a Green Lantern ring for some reason. And it doesn't make sense. And so that's how she got to this far sector. And now she's feeling it. She feels that this guy who she's been banging, because she's a strong female lead and she's liberated like that, he's been manipulating her at this point. And then, of course, her weird, quirky lesbian AI thing doesn't like it and comments on that. And so there's the next trope here is that they've, like, taken drugs to turn off emotions for all their people. And you just see, like, there's a lot of talking head scenes. Like, nothing goes on. There's so much dialogue. Nothing develops. But he's on this drug, this, like, emotion drug or whatever, and he's taken a counter agent to the emotion drug to allow him emotions. That's why he can bang her. And look at how blobby and manly they both look. Yes. And she's not sure whether she trusts him or not and all that. And it turns out he's like this evil bad guy because he's part of the patriarchy. And the patriarchy is trying to put down protesters. And they're not going to accept election results because, of course, they have elections just like America in 2020. And, of course, those peaceful protesters, as she calls them, who are actually violent protesters, and she doesn't see the irony of that, just like in America 2020, are really the correct people. And these people really just need to be forced out of office. And it is an allegory for, you guessed it, Donald Trump. Yes. Oh, we're so glad we were talking about elections. Oh, man. It is so cringy all the way. Here's the Leroy Jenkins scene. Yes, an AI on an alien planet says Leroy Jenkins out loud here. And it doesn't make sense. Cool colors again, but you really can't tell what's going on, even though the colors are pretty. Like, I guess she actually, like, jacks into some AI world or something like that, and sees the plight of the AI people. And the colors are nice, but you really, like, don't get a sense of what's going on. The panels don't flow. I mean, just everything about this is so bad. God, do they think this actually, like, gets to people? Is my question. Does this level of non-storytelling work? And again, she's kind of just stood around while nothing's happened, and, like, the bad guys are doing their thing. Like, she could have just not been in this entire book as the main protagonist, amorphous blah black lady. lesbian, whatever. And the events would have happened all the same. So finally, at the end of it, Mary Sue takes the action, and the council holds the elections anyway. They're getting voted out, but they're gonna make some like big angry show of it, just like Donald Trump. And she's going to put a stop to those evil insurrectionists who are fighting the will of the people and trying to enslave the literal black people. Yay, in the name of social justice. And it all goes very slowly. It all, like, you see all the exposition. There's no, like, action scenes where you see, like, the big conflict between the people and the council. Like, she goes over this, like, crap where it's Leroy Jenkins and talking back and forth about, like, their food, very boringly. And then she, like, just tells you that all this action happened. And then suddenly it's over. So it's like you get 2 pages of them telling you it's happening. When that should have been actually maybe the story. This is a visual. Comic books are a visual medium, people. You can't just like have a bunch of talky scenes and not do anything, and then like, oh yeah, by the way, the action happened. I mean, that's how they do things in these modern sci-fi novels quite a bit, and you can kind of get away with that in prose because you don't have something to look at. But people want to look at the actual scenes and all that here. And then she ends up, because we needed more flirty lesbian stuff, she ends up in a flirty lesbian relationship after the man was bad because he's the patriarchy. And then happily ever after, yay gay, the end. It's so cringy. I just can't freaking believe it. It really ends even further. So we've got 4 more pages where literally nothing happens. Remember, the story's over back here in this last issue. Like half the issue is still going on after the story's over. There's another writing thing that you learn very early on, that you get into a story as late as possible so that you can jump into the action and hook the reader. You get out of the story as early as possible because you want to end the story on the note where it's exciting. So nothing exciting is happening now. She gets a letter from her daddy. She has some more edgy internal dialogue. I hate this city. I love this city. Yeah, I mean, it's like, why? Why did you spend a page on that? Oh well. And then she goes on a more dialogue, and then the last page, it gets really funny. I mean, she has to make sure, like, we hit our lesbian points, we hit our Black Lives Matter points, but let's make sure we hit it again. Check it out. As she looks up into space, she goes, God, so much blackness. So beautiful. Black is beautiful, everybody. Which, space and absence of light is not the skin color of Africans. I can't reason with these people. I can't reason with these people. You can't explain to people that not everything is about fucking skin color, N.K. Jemisin. Jesus Christ. And that's that. What a train wreck. Ugly art, ugly storytelling, hateful people. You can tell N.K. Jemisin is just a miserable person who just hates everything. And the colors look real nice. So I'll give it a 3 out of 10. And those 3 points come from solely the colors over the course of this, because I really like the color palette that he used. Beyond that, this is the worst book probably I've ever read in a comic. This is worse than I Am Not Starfire. I can't believe this exists. Holy hell. What the fuck is DC Comics thinking? Whew. All right. We'll probably do a book burning of that later. See you guys.